You look like a very young, distinguished young gentleman right now, bro. What are you doing?
I'm waiting on you.
Fuck you mean you waiting on me? You look like you was thinking about life. I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
It's been recording for 3.5 minutes. I said
You're
I'm
fucking lying. You fucking lying.
I said to you, I'm gonna start the recording. Go when you're ready.
I'm
That's
so
why I've been
sorry, bro.
quiet.
Yeah, I'm a fucking idiot, bro. I had no clue. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? You are on the sidelines with the Sideline Guys for a very special MMA edition of the show, and I am joined once again by my loyal, esteemed co host, the man dressed in Jets green, despite his heart probably being a very decrepit, similar color. How are you feeling, Sean Negron?
Uh, in pain when it comes to Jets football. I think I'm in more pain, to be honest with you, with that red Yankees hat. You're floating and flirting with Red Sox colors there. I don't necessarily know if I like it. It's different, but it's new. It definitely pops out when it comes to this podcast. So I'm good though, by the way. Yeah, it's great. Wait, what does it say? Wait, go back, go back. What does that
Got a
say?
little World Series patch, nothing,
Oh, okay.
nothing
Look at
too
this. Look at
crazy.
this. Look at this. Way to show it off. Way to show it
Yeah,
off
man.
there. I like it.
My dad's the same way. Funny enough, when I first bought this hat, he's like, "What are you doing?" Like as if I committed some sort of treason. But
It
I
is
think
treason.
I think having multiple Yankee hats is an excuse to not represent another team. So, are we on the same page on that one? Would you rather me be wearing a St. Louis Cardinals hat right now, or is
Yes.
the red Yankee? Really,
Yes. Yeah.
really?
It's just the
Why is
red.
that?
If it was any other color, I wouldn't really care. But you're flirting with Red Sox here, and that's a
Wow,
Red Sox type color, and it just doesn't really make much sense to me.
wow. Well,
It's like seeing a Red
slandered right
Sox
off the
hat and
top of
like
the show, right?
pinstripes. Like, does it make sense? No.
Damn it, Sean. Damn it. I thought I was cool. I thought I was
It
swanky.
does look nice.
But
It just
apparently it is a Bronx thing.
yeah.
They have
Okay.
variations of every color of this same Yankees hat.
All right.
I gotta buy some more. I have three, I think. You've seen me with the diamond, the Tiffany blue
I have.
and black Yankee hat as well. So come on, man. What's going on?
You got the like
Is it
banana
just the
yellow.
red? Oh yeah, yeah. I There was a release like that, but I unfortunately didn't grab it. Got to be on the links a little quicker than
For
that, brother.
sure. For sure.
But the only right way to continue forward is if we fucking get the shit back on course. God damn it, we need your socials so that the people can continue to see you, probably publicly roasting me like you just did.
That's what happens when you go 2 weeks without UFC. But you can find me at I was about to say at UFC here. Yep, you could find me there. I wish. I wish you could.
Very soon,
Um,
very soon.
at Sean Negron 26 on Twitter. bsreports.org is my website. If you ever want to get started in the sports industry, writing, podcasting, whatever it is, shoot me a shout and I will help you out.
You heard the man. I have officially, and once again, I have said this before on this show, so take it with a grain of salt, right? But I have officially began writing my first piece, and I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if you caught this last week, but I slipped up a little bit on what potentially might be my first thing, and I'm just gonna go right out and say it, right? I'm gonna be doing a series of mixed martial arts poetry on the BS Reports channel. So if that's
Ah,
something that interests you, make sure you're tuned in. But with all that being said, you could
that's new.
find me at Negrong MMA, as well as Chris Negrong underscore on Instagram, Negrong MMA on Twitter and TikTok. Make sure you're following us there. Going to be dropping a lot more reels of this show and previous shows as well. Been having a blast with all of the socials, so continue to probably roast me like Sean just did. Would love to see it. But make sure you're following the brand at OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube. I think I just said that the flipped way.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I
Leave it that
definitely
way.
did. Perfect. So, We are gathered here today, ladies and gentlemen, not for a hellscape sacrifice, but
Mm.
an actual card that the UFC cares about that is taking place in Austin, Texas. We have Arman Tsarukyan going up against Beneil Dariush. Sean, let's start from the bottom and work our way up to the top on this one. Our very first fight of the night, we have Veronica Hardy coming up against Jamey-Lyn Horth in the women's flyweight division. Now, I'm going to come at you hot and heavy with this one, man, for a lot of different reasons. No pause. Shout out to the Hardy family, man. I have been a big fan of their podcast. I believe it is literally just the full reptile Dan Hardy breakdown show, whatever the hell. I love the way they approach looking at fights, breaking down fights, and then you can see how that all funnels into training for fights. So I'm a fan of this team and their thought process when it comes to the world of MMA. So I think it's pretty easy to get a distinction of where I'm leaning. I loved watching that fight, her last fight that she had. Believe it was 289. Um,
286.
oh, 286. God damn it. See, time continues to fly, man. It will continue as well. But I remember being in the parking lot watching that fight because Sean was nowhere to be found, and I was waiting for
Wow.
him to link up with me.
Wow.
And just a hell of a performance, right? Against give me wait a second. I got it. It's right there. It's right there. Killer Miller, Juliana
Nice
Miller,
job.
right? Amazing, amazing fight. What was so exciting for me about it was seeing the way Veronica Hardy kept her style, but looked very solid in this new weight class, man. I think it's funny because you saw earlier on in her career, whether she was fighting up at bantamweight or anywhere else between the spectrum of 125 and 135, she does a lot of she has a very similar game as far as how she builds her striking approach, which I think is really fascinating to watch. I think she works a lot from southpaw, but then switches to orthodox. And I had a fun time in my tape review, kind of just trying to figure out what she's trying to accomplish from both stances. And I think the main things to watch out for in this matchup from orthodox specifically is that low line leg kick, especially the inside one. I think in this matchup specifically, she's going to have a speed advantage at range against Jamey-Lyn Horth. Um, I think from that southpaw position is where she really lands her best straights and looping right hooks. So keep an eye out for all of those strikes. But as far as how they match up on the feet, I think Veronica Hardy is the much faster athlete. But I would say Jamey-Lyn Horth seems to be the stronger fighter from everything I've seen, even though Veronica Hardy has fought more fights up at bantamweight than Jamey-Lyn Horth has up to this point. Um, I think this fight really depends on whether Veronica Hardy can keep it at range and enter the clinch on her terms. If she can, I think this should be a pretty easy fight for her. But I think it makes sense why they're lined so closely, just because I could see Jamey-Lyn Horth, especially up against the cage, giving her a lot of issues in the clinch because she's a more physically imposing fighter. But as far as fluidity and strength in motion, I think Veronica Hardy has a big advantage keeping things at range. So give me Veronica Hardy by decision. How you feeling about this one, Sean?
Oof. I'm a little upset. You took so much of what I wanted to say right out of the equation for me. But yes, I this one I this might have been one of the tougher ones I've been going back and forth with for the last couple days, and it's tough to decide. But I'm gonna agree with you and go with Veronica Hardy here. I loved how much more refreshed she looked 3 years, taking off and then going in a different weight class and how she has performed since that. And the thing is that uh with Jamey-Lyn, I'm still very new to her game. I did like her last win, but I felt that Veronica, obviously with the experience and the last name in there, I feel like she's definitely one where you kind of took it right from me, where you said, it's the close range for me that's going to do the trick. And I think that's what's going to come down to. I see this one being very fast, very proactive, and very heavy, quickly, very what's the word? I'm dancing around the word, but very a nice way to start the card, I guess, is the best way to put it. So I think this is one of those where we're going to see a very fun, interesting way to start this card. This is a very nice fight night card, and I think Hardy gets it done. I think it still goes to decision, but it's one of those where kind of puts Veronica Hardy back on the map after all this time.
For sure. Jamey-Lyn's Horth came at bantamweight against one Haley Cowan. And I thought even in that matchup, man, she looked a little bit slow on the feet,
Yeah.
especially, and like not willing to engage in certain spots. And it's funny because she's willing to throw down. Like don't mistake not willing to engage with not being willing to hold her ground. She fully, when being rushed, will just plant down, bite down on the mouthpiece and just throw back, which is a good instinct to have. But just a little sluggish for me on the outside. Next up, we've got Wellington Turman, young beef Wellington himself, going up against the Night Train, Jared Gordon. Sean, why don't you lead the dance on this light heavyweight matchup, the heaviest fight on this card?
Isn't that funny? Um, See, I don't like any of these fighters. Not gonna lie to you. Um, I'm gonna say another one where I did not like Wellington in his last fight against was it Petrosky? I remember the Petrosky fight.
How
That did
dare
not
you,
go well.
rude
But
boy,
then Randy
Randy
Brown.
Brown.
Yeah. And that one I didn't like either, but um I just don't really believe in Gooden, and he struggles a lot with making weight. It's it's one of those where I haven't relied on Gooden's game since he's been in the UFC, and I think this is the second stint if I'm not mistaken, and I can't put good faith in believing in Gooden to get the job done here. So I think this is one of those where Turman gets it done, but I'm not overly confident in it. So I'm going to say Wellington takes it.
Man, I'm pretty surprised, not gonna lie, by your analysis on this one, because I agree with you. I'm also going with Wellington Turman, but I disagree with you on his trajectory, man. I think earlier on in his career, kind of felt the same way. I was just like, man, I'm not really seeing it, right? The pieces of the game aren't connecting together. But I'm a big fan of a lot of the improvements I've seen in his last two fights, even though there weren't losses, right? Trotsky fight was definitely a much clearer, decisive fight, which is interesting to think about when you think, Randy Brown is actually the higher ranked fighter. And he actually gave him a run for his money. You could argue definitely won the third round, and was putting himself back in the conversation when it comes to damage. I'm a fan of Wellington Turman's striking game under the tutelage of Glover Teixeira, and I'm sure Alex Pereira at the Connecticut Chop Shop, baby. They're just doing beautiful things over there in Danbury. But I like the little low line, calf kick that he clearly got from Pereira. No tell whatsoever. Just throws it out there pretty smoothly. Um, I do think he is a little slow when it comes to reacting to combinations, which can be a problem in this matchup specifically. But overall, I think he has a much more solid base of striking and is actually the way better grappler in my opinion. I think very much so. My play on this, my angle on this fight is I'm going to be playing Wellington Turman by submission, and I'm going to see if my bookie allows me to play Wellington Turman by arm triangle choke, because this is a position that I've seen Jared Gooden come into trouble with in a lot of fights, even fights that he's won on the regional scene and in the UFC. And this is one of Wellington Turman's favorite positions. So keep an eye out for that wrinkle. But give me Wellington Turman as well. Next up.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. You got something for me there?
No, no, I was pretty surprised with your analysis there. But you know what? I hope you're right when it comes to proving me wrong. But I just don't. I don't think you are. I'm gonna be
I
blunt.
just I love how you're so low on him, but not willing at all
Sorry.
to consider the Jared Gooden pick. Because yeah, his striking game is really hard to make sense of, man. He's obviously a very
Yes.
athletic guy, but the dude just completely has his hands at his knees and uses, I mean, he has like a funky slip because he fights that way. He reminds me a lot here. Here, this is not a racist comparison, I promise you. But they also have bald heads. He reminds me a lot of Bobby Green, right? But without the
Mm.
actual slick defensive side to the head movement, it's just very janky and rough. But the hands down, there's some similarities there. But yeah, I'm not a fan of his game, and I think Turman should be able to capitalize. But next up, we've got Ihor Potieria coming up against Rodolfo Bellato. Sean, I'm throwing back to you again because I got to sneeze.
Well, this is, I think, the heaviest fight on the card. This one is very, very
This is
interesting.
middleweight, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought this was light heavyweight.
No, no, no. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. I jumped the gun. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
um. Anyway, I'm see, this is a tough one because this hurts my soul if this makes any sense, and it's not going to, because for there's no way I'm going to say anyone's names right here, but code to what, just say the names one more time.
No, no, no. I want to hear you say it. Why don't you say it
Is
again?
it Ihor? Is am I on the right track there?
I like that. I like that a lot.
All right, so that's
I don't
Ihor
think
then.
that's how it's said,
Ihor's
but
his name.
yeah, I like
It's
it.
not, but
Try the last name.
E. No, I'm good. I'm not that guy. Yeah, yeah. There's no shot. There's no shot. I can't even.
Potieria. Potieria.
Potieria? That's no way. That's too easy. Um, yeah, with Potieria, I was actually really bummed out with his loss to Olberg. That had to be like a good 6, 7 months ago. But
Mhm.
it was I thought I would see more from him in his UFC career so far, and he's kind of hit or stalled down, sort of on the backtrack here. But Rodolfo is one of those guys where he's red hot. He's on a serious run here. He was nasty in the what do you call it, in the contender series, and I think he's just getting started here. I'm one of those guys, as I say it all the time, who believes in experience, but I feel that coming from the well, his camp, I know his camp by heart. Um, Oh my god! All right, I know it's a Hall of Fame UFC fighter. I can't think of his camp, but it's
We got to get it together. This is amateur
bro.
hour, right? We're
I
fucking
know
up early on here.
this is what happens when you go 2 weeks without recording.
Team Noguera.
But
There we go.
there you go. Thank you. Yes, Team Noguera. I believe that he's on a fast track here, and I believe that he's 100% going to take this one. I see this one ending by knockout, maybe in the first minute and a half.
Hmm. Ah, man, I'm gonna be honest with you here, man. I have the exact opposite take as you. I loved to see Ihor Potieria get absolutely smoked by Carlos Olberg because of what he did to my guy in his retirement fight, man. You don't just knock out a legend and then Fortnite emote on him. That's illegal, brother. That is illegal. So it's good to see now another legend of the game is sending a guy from his camp, right, to decapitate him. Rodolfo Bellato is a imposing human being, man. The dude is a diesel truck, and his only losses comes to one of my guys, Sean's favorite fighters, Vitor Petrino. Both of them. And one of them was a knockout on Contender Series. Both of this guy's Contender Series fights were absolute slugger not drug freaking drag them out brawls that just ended up with someone getting bonked. So no matter what happens here, it's gonna be fun. But Rodolfo Bellato actually looks like one of the guys that are perfect for MMA, right? Just Brazilian, diesel, and just will put them hammers on you whenever he gets a chance. Um, I agree with you. I think this is going to end early, and I think this is going to be a bad night for Mr. Potieria. Next up, we've got Steve Garcia coming up against, hear me out on this one, Melquizael Costa. Look at this man, bro. It just flows right off the tongue. This right here is a motherfucking banger. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm excited for this fight. I haven't seen a Melquizael Costa fight that I haven't been entertained by. And the same thing goes for Steve Garcia, man. I've loved the improvements that I've seen out of Steve Garcia in his career, especially most recently. The guy's putting together his striking game at Jackson Wink, which pretty funny, right? One of the last breeds, in my opinion, of really good fighters coming out of there. I'm a big fan of his game in general, and I think he was originally scheduled before this to fight Sean Woodson. And I think this is actually a much more favorable matchup. So I'm going to be honest with you here, Sean. I was a little surprised to see Steve Garcia being such a big underdog, man. I think Melquizael Costa is a very fun, exciting action fighter, but I don't like his pressure game. I think he is there to be hit, and he is someone that really has a hard time getting into range properly, but rushes into it constantly. And I think that's going to be his problem here in this fight. Give me Steve Garcia. Honestly, by knockout play is live, but I'll say by decision. How you feeling, Sean?
I can't believe you just took that because I was thinking, all right, if we can finally separate here, because I'm definitely going Steve Garcia here. He's an incredible freestyle fighter. I've loved what he's done. Even that the win against Chase Hooper, that's what kind of put me on the map with him. Like obviously I've known he's been around for a long time, but it was when he beat Chase Hooper when I was so high on Chase Hooper at the time, and to see him excel the way he has over these last year and a half, I think he's starting to hit his stride now, and I think he could definitely be a knockout. I could see some sort of ground and pound finish, but it could be one of those that go right to decision. But it's going to be a hell of a fight, and I think Garcia is one of those where we got to keep an eye out for in the future.
Agreed. I'm sad because I honestly was shocked that the odds were the way they were, and I was like, who knows? Maybe I'll get a point. But not looking good. Next up, we've got Joe Solecki, a plus 115 underdog going up against Drakkar. I can't let you get close. Who you got in this one, Sean?
See, this is another really fun one for me. See, the one thing I'm picking Drakkar, but this is the reason why I have trouble with this is his inability to get into the octagon, right? Like I feel like every time I find out news that he's gonna be fighting, it something always happens. And what bothers me is the fact that he hasn't fought in a year. I think he's a better fighter than Joe, but because he hasn't fought in a year, it's definitely worrisome for me. But to keep it simple, I think Drawcard goes in there and puts it puts it on him. I don't think he's going to get any sort of knockout. I think this one's going to go straight to decision, but it's one of those where it's not going to be the everyone's favorite fight, but it's going to be one of those where he kind of wins via points and by winning, 2 out of the 3 rounds. I think it's going to be a little close, but I think Drakkar gets it done.
Oh man, I hate to do it, but
Do
I
it.
think I'm on the same side
Oh,
as you on
don't
this
do it.
one. I think Jakar Close is just much more fluid on the feet, and I think that's where we're gonna see the difference here. I think he's a pretty underrated grappler too. I think he does a really good job keeping himself in strong positions where even if he is getting wrestled against the fence, he has a means to grab some underhooks and build a base, which is really fun to watch, especially at this division. The dude has a very aggressive takedown defense, which is my favorite, man. To see a guy that you could tell has some urgency, right, against someone that you know is going to be trying to exploit him in those phases feels pretty good. I will say if Joe Solecki gets his way, I could definitely see him putting him in some real dangerous positions on the ground. I just think he's not going to have the horsepower in the wrestling phases specifically to take him down over and over again. So I am also going with Mr. Drakkar Close. Next up, we've got Cody Brundage versus young Zach Hair Reese. No, that's not his nickname at all. I'm trying some things out. Okay, I'm trying. Clearly, it's
Savage.
not working all the best, but um, I think this. I'll take the lead on this one. Why not?
Wow. All right.
I think this matchup is a little strange, right? Because Cody Brundage is another one of those guys that, very unfortunately, I just think isn't that good, man. I don't think he's that good. And obviously he came away with a very fortunate disqualification win in his last one against Jacob Malkoun in a fight where it felt like he was en route to getting his ass beat. Let's be honest here. I like Zach Reese as a prospect. I do think he is kind of shot out of a cannon, which is sort of the kind of guy that Cody Brundage does well against. This one feels like a trap fight all over to me,
Oh yeah.
but give me Zach Reese because Cody Brundage isn't that good. How
I-
you feeling?
I'm surprised that the odds are even this close because this is one of those where the UFC matchmakers are doing everything they can to get Cody out of the UFC. The fact that he had lost 3 in a row, really should have lost that 4th in a row. Keeps him going because he won. You get Zach, who's had, what is he, 5-0, 6-0, all by first round. This is one of those where you get the crowd excited by a complete, difference in matchmaking here. This is not one of those where they did it on purpose to keep it close. This is one of those where you want to see if someone like Zach Reach, just a prospect, explode off the ground, come out of nowhere, and be this upcoming hopeful superstar in the making sort of fight. And Cody Brundage has his name written all over it to be the victim. So I think this is one of those where this is going to be a devastating fight for Cody and probably his last in UFC.
Wow, with conviction.
For sure, for sure.
You love to see it. My guy Sean is ready to get this guy out the UFC. But we'll see if that's actually what happens from this point on. I'm going to be honest. We have left the kiddie pool area, right? We are now approaching the 4 feet deep section. We're not in the deep end just yet, but this is where things start going downhill. I'm excited to ask you about this one, Sean. So why don't you tell me how you feel about Miesha Tate as a plus 135 underdog going up against Julia Avila, who's a minus 160 favorite? How you feeling about this bantamweight
Hurts my
matchup?
soul, buddy. It hurts my soul to see Misha look like this after all these years and retiring. I thought she retired a tad early, and then coming back, and it just has not. It has not been a fun run for her at all since she's come back to the UFC. The thing is that with Julia, this is another one with her. It's like I'm going with Misha here, just so we're clear. I think Misha finally gets it done, and in a nice little sold out crowd. People remember who Misha was. There's going to be some highlights of her, before they were required to wear the Reebok. There's going to be some fun moments here, and I think this is going to turn back the clock a little bit here. It's I think this is one of those that gets finished in the second round via submission. I think Misha gets it done. I could be completely dead wrong. We might see the end of Misha because she loses this one handedly. I really don't know how much more you want to keep going. 4 losses in whatever 3 years since you came back. You haven't picked up where you left off. You weren't the former contender and all that stuff. So this is tough. This is tough. Misha's definitely going to take it. It's tough it's going to be a tough one to watch for sure. I'll be praying that Tate can take it easily and get herself back on the horse, but who knows?
Dude, I'm gonna be honest, man. I hate that you're going this way because I couldn't agree with you more, man. I think what made me
Damn
sick
it!
about considering this matchup was how Julia Avila looked against Sajara Eubanks, who I think is a very good fighter, underrated fighter, especially when you look at just her record. Um, but that was a bad fight, man. That was a really bad performance, in my opinion, where she just kind of wilted. And if that can happen to you against Sajara Eubanks, The path to victory is there for Miesha Tate. This is a dangerous fight, though, like you mentioned. I think Julia Avila is going to put Miesha Tate through hell. I think it's going to be similar to that fight with Caitlin Vieira in that way, where, yeah, she might have some success on the shots, but she's going to have to go through hell to get there. I just feel like if she can survive past round one, from that point on, it should be relatively easy for her to get consistent takedowns and find a way to claw this one out. But I agree, man. This is gonna be a very telling fight for either of these ladies, right? No matter who ends up losing here, I think it's gonna tell us a lot about where they are at this point of their careers. But kind of crazy to think about this. Hear me out on this one, Sean.
Mm.
After, of course, the hood never stops. But if you had to wager me a guess here, right? We all know that Miesha Tate is the elder, right?
Yeah.
How many years would you say she has on Julia Avila?
Oh, okay. What is she? What, 36? 37?
Hey,
35?
37. You got it right. I
Okay.
won't I
All
won't
right.
tell
So
you how old
37.
Julia Avila is though. So,
Well, obviously, because you're asking me the question. Um, I don't know. Avila, every time I hear about Avila, it's always a fight cancellation with this girl. So I'm going to say actually not that much older. I'm going to say 6 years. I don't know.
hey, I love the way you were thinking, right? Not that much older. But it's 2 years, man. Julia Avila
Wow.
is only
Okay.
35, which was kind of shocking to consider when obviously you think about their MMA mileage, right? I think they
Yeah.
have a completely different odometer when it comes to that, but the experience should be the edge here. And I love that we're both picking the underdog once again on the same side. You'll
I don't
love
know
to
why you're
see it.
doing this to me.
Next up, we've got Punahele Soriano minus 260 going up against Dustin Stoltz Foose at plus 210. Sean, I will do the damn deed. I'm going to be honest with you here, man. I think Dustin Stolfoots is another one of those guys, man. Another one of
Oh,
those
no.
guys, right? Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, he's another one of those guys, man, that are on his way out, in my opinion, of the UFC. I think Puna is someone that the UFC has had on a pedestal since he made his debut, and I think they're trying to get him a win here. I think this one is going to come down to effective grappling. I think Punahele is really good, especially with getting takedowns in this division and punishing people from on top. I think Dustin Stolfus obviously not in the best position at the moment after suffering some very tough losses in his career. Um, I think we continue along that trend. Give me Punahele Soriano and my guys, Eric Nixick and the motherfucking crew over there at Extreme Couture, just doing the damn thing, continuing to roll. Let's do it. Punahele Soriano. How you feeling, Sean?
I can't believe that. I really thought you were taking Dustin there because I'm definitely taking Soriano here. I will never take Dustin because of how his little loss to Abus. Can't stand Abus, the most hyped up wannabe, washed up nothing. I just
Wow, I disagree. That man has some skills, brother. That man
yeah,
has
he
some skills.
does. All right, I think he was rushed. And it's not even his fault, right? I think the UFC overhyped
I
the
think it's
hell out of
Ali.
him.
It's Ali
Yeah, maybe.
Abdelaziz's fault.
Yeah, yeah, maybe because
Like 9/11.
that nonsense. This guy.
I
Uh,
went too far on that one. Oh, sorry. Continue.
yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I'm glad you said it. But the thing is with Abus is that Abus has proven that he is not a contending UFC middleweight at this time, and I believe that he is kind of being exposed here. But the fact that he came in and forced basically this Sean Strickland fight for Abus because of this win against Dustin in such dominating fashion that I can't believe in Dustin to turn this around now. I don't know. I know that sounds horrible, but even the Mearshart fight was not great for me. To
Mhm.
tell me, you know what, it was close. It could have been this. It could have he could. I can't do it. So while Soriano's not one of the top guys on my list to think that, you know, he could become something, like, yes, he's definitely rising. I'm not sure if I want to say I'm going to put all my chips in yet, but I do think this is one of those where, just like the fight we were talking about before, this might be one of those where we're looking at Dustin as days are numbered when it comes to the UFC. I think that could potentially be a situation, maybe in a fight or two from now.
Yeah, you could definitely say he sharded the bed on that one because goddamn, uh,
Yes.
in a fight that he actually was pretty competitive in, just got submitted in the third round. I mean, not the biggest thing to be ashamed of. That kind of is Mearshard's thing. But I think there was a case for Dwight Grant even winning that fight too. So it's like even the win you got doesn't look as good. And I don't think Dwight
Yeah,
Grant
exactly.
is a great prospect either. Even though I love him and he's fighting out of New York. Shout out to my guy, Mr. Grant himself. But we shall move on. Next up, from this point on, man, this is full WEC. This is just a bunch of small dudes doing the damn thing. We've got a lightweight matchup between Clay Guida, plus 260 underdog, going up against Joaquim Silva at minus 340. Sean, I'm throwing
Mhm.
right to you, baby, out the gate. This is a very pivotal matchup. And who knows, maybe this might be the one where we're on opposite sides for the first time this fight card. How you feeling about this lightweight matchup?
Wow. We really have everything so far.
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can change it up here. Okay. This is one of those where I can't go with Clay here. Clay, I have loved for forever. I think Clay is not a Hall of Famer, but one of those where you can always say he'll fight anyone at any time. I've seen him since the beginning, from jump, let's say. And I hope that this is I thought his last fight was gonna be the one when he did that fake retirement nonsense, but I do think that he won't stop fighting, and it's one of those. Sorry, I'm going to say this: Tony Ferguson situations where we gotta stop him from keep going out there. But Clay still has shown some upside as of, I guess, as of late. He hasn't won in a year, but I think Silva is one of those guys that the UFC put in to kind of stop this. You know, the Arman fight was, while it wasn't what you wanted, it was still pretty close, especially in that second round. I thought that it actually tested Arman a little bit there,
Hmm.
but when you go from Arman to Clay Guida, I I I don't know if you can have a bigger gap to kind of help you get back on the horse, like I said before. So this is one of those where I have to go with Joaquim Silva here, and I think he gets it done. I don't, and Clay's not going down without a fight, so I don't think this will go to knockout. I think this might go to decision.
Damn, Sean. Damn. I'm
Go
gonna be
Clay, come
honest
on.
with you here, man. Yeah, I really want to in my heart of hearts. I think there is a path to victory for him here in this matchup. I just think Joaquim Silva just hits way too hard, man. The Neto BJJ, the dude is a phenom out there. Reminiscent of Vitor Belfort with his skill set. I'm worried about Clay Guida in this one. If he can, if he can actually make Joaquim Silva really think about the takedown and tentative in that way, because you saw that in the Arman Tsarukyan fight. Even though he was able to get that left hook off and hurt Tsarukyan, when he started being tentative of the takedown, man, it just felt like everything was working for Arman after that. And I could see a world where Clay Guida starts fading his way in on that takedown. You know what I mean? Just fading his way in, and then eventually finds his way in on a couple of those. But yeah, I can't at this stage of his career confidently pick Clay Guida to do that. Um, I will not be surprised once Clay Guida is riding out the last 5 minutes of top control in round three, though. Like when that happens, I won't be surprised. But I think Joaquim Silva should do enough to edge it out in the first couple of rounds. Give me Neto BJJ, and we still are all locked up this far into the card. I don't like it. Next up, we got a banger at 170 pounds, man. We've got Sean Brady at minus 135 going up against Kelvin Gastelum at plus 115. This right here is a motherfucking fight, man. I'm gonna be honest. I really hope, I'm praying that we get to see vintage Kelvin Gastelum here, because I think if that guy shows up, god damn it, he's gonna win. I think he is so dynamic on the feet offensively, so fast, even for welterweight, which he's moving back down to here. Which is the X factor, man. This guy loves him some birria, right? This guy loves him some tacos, and it has kept him, in my opinion, away from the weight class where he actually has a chance at becoming champ. And that's 170, because there's so many wrestlers in this division. And I don't think there's anyone better than Kelvin Gastelum at deterring wrestlers, getting back to his feet. Even if he gets taken down, you can't really do much to him out of that turtle position, man. The guy just puts himself in turtle, and good luck trying to find a spot of control from there. I think this is going to be a very fun fight. I think Sean Brady's control is so dynamic. I could see him putting a stop to all of that, right? And just anchoring down in certain positions and winning rounds doing that. But man, I got faith, man. I'm believing in late era Kelvin Gastelum working with Henry Cejudo. I think if he can be agile in this one and stay away from that ground game, man, I think Kelvin Gastelum should be able to piece him up on the feet. Give me the pick for Mexico, god damn it. How you feeling, Sean?
I'm pissed because I was gonna take Gaslam only also because I think you know Brady. I've been waiting for Brady's return since the Bilal loss, and obviously he's had the groin injury. Then he had the other injury that also kept him out.
Staff.
Right, something happened.
Yeah.
Staph. Yeah, that's what it was. The infection. Um,
In his
and then
arm, yeah,
he
it was a
missed.
gnarly
Yeah,
one.
the JDM fight. That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right.
Three
Kevin
name
Holland, I
Jack,
think.
baby.
Yeah. So I've been waiting for his return. I want to see how he comes into this one. I think honestly, this is one of those where I think Sean can win the first two rounds. I do think Sean is a better is better now at this point than Gastelum is. I know Gastelum's moving down here. Uh, this is where he belongs. I think Gastelum is so freaking fun, man. He's so fun. I've loved his entire career. I was jumping up and down. I was hoping he'd beat Adesanya that day for the interim. It broke my heart when he didn't. But I'm a huge believer in Gastelum. But I believe Sean can definitely pull it off. I think people are starting to write him off because of the fact he lost to Bilal, and no one wants to like Bilal, and they believe Sean was like the next big thing, and then you lose like that, and the standing TKO. I still think though this is a prove it fight for Sean here. I think having a year off, injuries, infections, he's just looking to get out there and just dominate again and show everyone that he is real deal in this division. And I think he can win the first two rounds. But what's gonna make me worry is that third round. Is Gaslam's gas tank is gonna be all the way up here, and Brady's gonna be all the way down here. And I think that's gonna be the part that bothers me is Gaslam going full head, uh, full steam ahead here. And I'm just hoping that Sean can escape that third round. This is just how I see it going. And I do think Sean gets it by decision. But it could be one of those situations where Gaslam dominates so much that we could see some sort of crazy draw or majority decision. But I think Brady gets it done. He holds him for two rounds and wins via points.
Wow, look at that. Look at that. Forced to go the opposite way.
Yes, I
I
have
don't
to.
mind. I'm really feeling, I got something in my bones on this matchup, but we'll see if that works out for me. Next up, Rob Font, my native brother from Puerto Rico, Minus 140 against Davison, God of War, Figueiredo. Sean, why don't you let us know how you feeling about this bantamweight matchup?
I think this is Rob Font's fight here. I think uh, I think Davidson's a decorated champion. I have all the respect to him. Moving up is nothing's easy to do that. He could have just stayed at flyweight. He could have, battled back and tried to get his title back a third time. I give him a lot of credit for saying I'm moving up and this is what he's going to do. But people write off Rob Font too easily. The second he loses, it's all he was trash anyway. And I think Rob Font's incredible, and I think Rob Font's a way bigger athlete here. And I think this is one of those where, to be honest with you, I just don't see this being as competitive as I want it to be. I think Davidson's great, but I think Rob Font's better. Um, that Giannis fight, with the way to come out of the ground there when everyone doubted you, and even the UFC made that fight to see you get knocked out to someone like Giannis to make that fight. It's going to end within the first 3 minutes, and it does, but you're the one on the winning end. And so, yeah, he loses to Corey Sandhagen. That was everyone knew that was going to happen. The way it did. And it wasn't even like the fight was great. It was something different. Corey got hurt and then wrestled the whole time. I don't think that's going to be the situation with Davison here. And I'm a big believer in Rob Font still. I don't care what anybody says, and I think he gets it done easy.
I love it. I love the conviction in my guy from Puerto Rico, but I'm going a little bit of a different direction here. I'm going
Let's
with
go.
my guy, the God of War. I think at 135, this guy is going to be an absolute fucking tank. Like, I think he is not going to be phased at all by a lot of the shots that we saw him get damaged by at flyweight. I think this kind of matchup really suits Davison in the way that, yes, I agree. Rob Font is technically the better striker, right? Probably has the better process of the two. But I think every time Rob Font lands one of those jabs, it's just gonna make Davison more angry, right? It's gonna lead to a lot more rushes and flurries of punches. And I think just like Yoel Romero does at 185, I think this dude is just gonna spark out Rob Font here. So give me Davison by knockout in a surprising debut at bantamweight. But I won't be surprised either way, to be honest. This is one of the closer fights, if you ask me. And it really depends on how these guys look, right? And we haven't seen Davison fight for a while. And same goes for Rob Font. Obviously, we saw him fight, like you said, on short notice, but not the best
Yeah.
barometer of his skills either, right? So I think, honestly, what you said about the grappling, though, is another reason why I'm leaning Figueredo, because I feel like Figueredo doesn't shoot takedowns, but he ends up on the ground with guys. He ends up throwing either himself or someone else onto the ground at some point. It doesn't have to be a real takedown. It can just kind of be a pressure them into a spot, throw a couple punches, and land the good old right hook takedown, right? Shout out to Chael Sonnen. Sometimes you don't need a takedown. You just need a little right hook. And I think Davidson's going to end up getting some significant top control here. So give me Dos de Guerra. Next up, our co-main event of the evening, Jalen
Ooh.
the Tarantula Turner coming up against Bobby Green, a sizable underdog once again in his career. Man, this is a tough fight. This is a really hard fight for me to gauge, man. I thought obviously there was no shot that Bobby Green was going to beat Grant Dawson, let alone with one fucking punch, right? Just making it look easy, making me look silly on that one. But I'm a fan of Bobby Green. I think I've always been a fan of his janky style. And obviously, he's got some really fun moments in his career, but also he's someone that's really lived up to the occasion in his last couple of fights. So a late career resurgence, which you love to see, man. Not at all what I saw for him, if I'm being honest. But as far as this matchup goes, I am very confidently going to be picking Jalen Turner here, even though he's coming in on short notice.
Mm.
I think his length in this kind of matchup and the way he likes to fight really does give him an advantage. Not because he's a long fighter necessarily, but because he is a power striker and he's trying to get you out of there, I think that level of danger for Bobby Green makes it a little bit more desperate for him to close range. And I think in that scenario, he's going to be there to be hit. So give me the tarantula on short notice. How you feeling about this lightweight co-main, Sean?
Ugh, I was on the fence with this one as well. This one in the main event are ones where I like it. It's close fights where you could pick either or, but you said it. It's for me, it's distance here, and I think Jalen can keep the distance and make Bobby very uncomfortable here. And I still think Jalen is top notch. I think the Gamrot fight was one of the most uncomfortable fights he's probably ever been in. Constantly grappling, constantly wrestling, something he didn't want to do. And then he gets someone he wanted, someone like Dan Hooker, the complete opposite, just absolute, you know, hand over fist. Everyone's punching each other in the face. Someone's going to die in there that night. And it basically turned out that way because the way Jalen was going after him, and that head kick to Dan Hooker, clean as can be. Dan is such like a freak athlete monster that nothing takes him down. That Dustin Poirier fight with him is one of the all-time greatest. So, you know, I that's why I picked Dan. I just felt he was going to be able to summon whatever demon he has left with all those crazy tattoos he just got and find a way to pull a victory on Jalen, and that's exactly what ended up happening. But I still think Jalen's a monster, and I think this is one of those fights where you get someone like Bobby Green here. I think this is exactly what he wanted. It's why he asked to fight. He's like, I need to get myself back in the win column. I can beat this dude. I can keep the distance. This is another guy who's going to scrap with me. We're not going down to the ground. We're just going to punch each other in the face and see who ends up on the winning end. And I think he's going to get it done. I do think that this is. I can never imagine a situation where Bobby Green loses via knockout. But this could be one of those times where Jalen gets it done. I think the distance is a huge factor here, and I do think that even on short notice, it's going to be a little closer than if this was a full camp for both. If this was a full camp, I see Jalen with like 450 odds, to be honest with you. But I think Jalen can get it done. My only thing with him is that his weight, hopefully he can make weight. That's what I think is going to be the biggest problem for me. Is if he misses that weight or his weight cut's a problem, then I can absolutely see Bobby taking this. He didn't make weight against the Dan Hooker fight, and that was very questionable. And I think this is one of those where if he can make weight and he's comfortable, you know, fighting on fight night, then I think it's his.
This dude is a professional. There's nothing else to be said. We move on to our main event. We've got Beneil Dariush plus 220 coming up against Arman Tsarukyan. Sean, I'm throwing to you, man. I need to hear your analysis on this main
Oh,
event. Let me know who you got, man. I've been waiting all night for this. I'm just gonna lay out now. It's your turn, brother. Take us to the promised land.
I knew you were gonna let me go first on this one because this is one of those where I was hoping you would take the reins here because honestly, I love Armand, but I still believe in Dariush here. And this is I'm not sure who see this is still like as soon as I believe in Dariush, I go, but man, Armand's this is his time now. But Dariush, was on top of the world, beating everyone, rolling through everyone until the Charles fight. And in the way he got manhandled by Charles as easily as it was, it's so crazy how 4 minutes can determine everything that you did for 10 years. And
Mm.
that's exactly what happened for Dariush. Dariush was unbeatable. Everyone thought, the Islam fight that was supposed to happen, there was a real chance that Dariush could have won that fight. People were thinking that Dariush should have won that fight. Obviously, it ended up getting canceled. Um, and then he goes out and beats Gamrot. You're like, okay, he's real deal. Give him Oliveira. Oliveira's on the decline. I think people. I don't remember what the odds were that night, but I think a lot of people were still picking Dariush to beat Oliveira. I think people believe that Oliveira was on it at the end of the rope. He had a good run. But the way he lost to Islam, it's the end. Dariush was going to roll through him. He was the next title contender. But then, Oliveira's gonna be a Hall of Famer, and that was the reason why fights like that. but I still believe in Dariush here. I think Dariush can get it done. Arman is on a whole nother level as well. I think he's on the come up. So this is such a perfect time to do this fight because this is an incredible main event where I there's no one I can say here that I go, oh, absolutely, it's his fight, it's their fight, they're gonna take it. But if I had to go, I'm going Dariush.
Wow. What makes
This
you
is
feel what makes you feel that convicted to go Dariush here?
there's no conviction here. This is one of those where I could say Armand and and sleep, perfectly fine at night. This is gonna be really, really close. Really, really close. And I think Dariush is overlooked now because of that Oliveira loss and everything that he did for those last 9, 10 years or 9, 10 wins, whatever it is nothing to sneeze at here. And I think he can absolutely get this done and kind of remind everyone of how good he really is and how him versus Islam is the fight to make. And I think it could start with someone like Arman. But same thing with Arman. Arman could win this fight and then get a Dustin Poirier fight next or whatever the case may be and prove that he's next for a title shot. So this is for both these guys. It's whoever wins here wins one more time and they're fighting Islam for the title. That's how this is going to go. So this is going to be really close. I can absolutely see Arman taking this one and I wouldn't even be surprised, but I can see Darius taking him to the ground and getting a nice submission. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Dariush by submission in the fourth round.
Dude, I love the way you're thinking here. Now, I'm going to ask you that you come along this journey with me, right?
All
Because
right, let's see
I
what you got.
thought very long and hard about this
Yeah,
matchup and
yeah.
the way these two fighters link up, right? And I think I've come up with a very interesting analogy to talk about both of these guys' game, especially on the feet. So I think in the grappling phases, both of these guys extremely underrated. Even though they are heralded and known for their grappling, they are still underrated because both of these guys are extremely strong and sturdy in those positions and just have a very innate feel for those exchanges, man. I think for people that have never grappled, you can't understand how much of it really is feel versus thought and analysis. It is more so having a good understanding of of the space around you, right? And I think both of these guys are just very good at collecting limbs and putting themselves in good positions to land dominant positions on the ground. Now, on the feet, here's where this little analogy comes in, which I really love. I'm very proud of it, and I haven't even spoken about it yet. But come along this ride with me here. So I think Arman Tsarukyan's striking is very good. I think if we were to look at the textbook, right, on how to throw certain strikes, man, his fade back head kick, his 1-2, his jab at range, like everything is just technically perfect. He's on his feet, he's doing everything extremely correct, right? The way you would advise someone to do these things. He is by the book, 100%. Beneil Dariush, on the other hand, especially on the feet, he's someone that really colors outside the lines a little bit. He's someone that a lot of the things he does that works so devastatingly really don't work for everybody else, right? He throws punches at weird angles. He is willing to brawl in a way that's uncharacteristic for himself at times. Like, just think about the the fight against Drakkar Close, right? There's so many different examples, but that fight specifically, Beneil Dariush is getting cracked, man, getting hurt really bad at range, and then he just let out Benny Thrills, right? He just let go and just fully went on instinct, threw a barrage of punches, and ended up. It kind of felt like accidentally knocking this guy out. Like that's the way Dariush is striking is so dynamic because it doesn't really I always get the sense after he gets these knockouts, or even when he dropped Gamrot, right, in that big exchange where he's like, "Oh shit, I did do that. That is something I can do." Like it seems like even he wasn't ready for that kind of result from that strike, and I think that's what makes him really dangerous in this matchup for sure. I think honestly, if you didn't pick Dariush here, I was 100% going with Dariush just because of the way their games match up. I think this is especially with how we saw Saryukin get tested against Joaquim Silva. I think those same tests exist as far as being able to land a big strike like that, but the grappling awareness is much better than Joaquim Silva as far as putting himself in better positions to land those strikes. So I felt very confident in making that pick as well. But I am going to be leaning heavily on the reality of that last fight against Charles Oliveira. And I think there was a diminishment in the level of punishment he can take. To me, at least, I do agree that Charles Oliveira is a very hard puncher and a very dynamic finisher. So maybe I just look crazy, right? Maybe that was just a one night thing, but I honestly felt like there was he went a little too easy that night, if you ask me, uncharacteristically. And I think that might be the unfortunate part of this all, right? Where he's stuck around in the division for so long, dominated, right? I believe at one point he had like almost a 7 fight win streak, right? Before he ended up losing that last fight against Oliveira. So I think Dariush, amazing fighter. Honestly, someone that in a different universe has a Hall of Fame career, right? Where he's able to get those fights lined up at the right time. But unfortunately, that's not the timeline we live in. And I think at this point, he's a little over the hill. I think Saryukin will be best served here, in my opinion, to treat the striking like it's a goddamn fencing match, and his opponent has bombs instead of a what is a joust. I think he should really try his hardest to stay bouncy on the outside and keep this a non-negotiable fight at range, to say, hey, I can fight you out here, but I'm going to just keep landing my jab and force you to do something else. And then once you do, I'm just going to be in on your legs and take you down. I think he's going to be able to get control positions, especially either in half guard or in full mount, and find himself just bombing him with the elbows. I think that's going to be a significant part of this fight. And I think just you never feel bad leaning on youth and athleticism, especially in a matchup like this. So give me Arman Tsarukyan. God damn, Sean, that was a whirlwind. I can't believe we already finished up the entire card, man. Do you have any final words on this main event before we flip the switch and move on to Dynasty?
I was along for your ride there and pause, but I think I'm I like your analysis here. I just think that Dariush can still get it done. I can't imagine myself Dariush losing again, and then we have those YouTube clips 5 years from now of what happened to Dariush, what could have been.
Wow.
And I think, yeah, I do think the Oliveira fight was wild and a clear difference in talent and testing there. But I do believe that Dariush, just had a bad night. And yeah, I don't think Dariush was going to be better than Oliveira that day. I think Oliveira was on a different level, but I think Dariush looked incredibly poor compared to his former fights. And I think this was that was like a big moment for him. Um, he could have really taken on the world. He kept saying in that fight that, oh, this is like a title fight for me. I can't wait. I just want to fight for a title. I just want to fight for a title. And it just didn't happen. And he was devastated. So I think he's looking at this as like, all right, this is probably my final shot here at getting my title title shot that I desperately deserve. I'm gonna beat Armand. I'm gonna beat Dustin or whoever is next. And I'm going for Islam, and I think he gets it done.
I love it, dude. I love the conviction, man. And honestly, I think I might be rooting for that outcome secretly. I'm gonna be honest. I love me
I
some
feel you.
Benny thrills. But yeah, this is a real tough matchup. And honestly, Armin is one of my favorite prospects in the UFC period. So with that being said, it's time to consider these prospects and make some draft picks here. Sean, I feel like
Oof.
I'm in for being heartbroken, right? I'm in for a Tommy Aspinall situation right now, but I'll let you start us off whenever you're ready.
Yes. This is be honest with you, this is I'm looking beyond I like this card, but
I
there's
do too.
some, even with the veterans, or I should say guys who have been here who are on the come up, it's still questionable. And there are some guys here that I think, no matter who I take, I'm gonna be heartbroken about these next two guys that I really want to take. So I'm on the fence about both of them, and I'm deciding who I want more. Man, this is tough. This is
Dynasty
a tough
MMA,
one.
you love it. You love to see
This
it.
is why you love it. Yeah, of course. This is exactly why you love it. Um, ooh, all right. Now take up any more time. I'm gonna be nice. And my first pick, and I know you're gonna be like, "What?" My first pick, give me Sean Brady.
Wow. Holy shit. Sean, I'll be honest with you. I got two picks. You probably could have got Sean Brady with your fourth pick. I'm gonna be real with you.
Ooh, all
I'm
right,
gonna be
cool.
real with you. But
Take
goddamn,
it.
I like it. A real eye for the future here. I like it.
It
Goddamn, I
is an
was
eye.
not mentally, emotionally, or physically prepared for that one. Holy hell, this guy loves me. Give me Arman Tsarukyan, of
Yep.
course. And then after that, that's where things get interesting, right? That's where things get a little dicey here.
Mhm.
Hmm. There's a lot of different ways I can go on this one.
See, you're telling me at this pick right here, you wouldn't have, if I had taken Dariush or something, which I wouldn't have done with my first pick. But you're not telling me at this moment you would have been like, I should, you know what, I'm going to take Sean Brady here.
No,
Wow.
honestly, no.
So,
Honestly, there's a lot of prospects here that I would much
well, you
rather
picked Kelvin
have.
too. I
But
forgot.
there's a lot of guys here where I do kind of feel like, hey, they might be around once I get my pick again. So I don't know. This is a tough one. But you know what? Give me one Jalen Turner, and
Very
I'll throw it
nice.
back to you, Sean.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Well, give me Dariush.
Okay.
And just
Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
with the fifth
You
pick
like that, right? Like that, yeah.
in the Dynasty draft, Sean will
Who would
take.
be our Roger Goodell? Who would be the guy at the podium? That's the question.
Ooh, that's a good question. You know what?
Give me Amanda Hebos up
See,
there. That's
oh,
that's what
you
I
know what?
would
I
do.
was keeping it personal there. I was gonna say that would be nice, but I was gonna say, since your mom
He
is
was
such
gonna
a
say Eileen Perez.
diehard, no. I was gonna say
Oh, look at
family.
that.
Since your mom is such a diehard UFC fan, I would have had her do it. I think she,
I
I
love
think
it.
she would do good at the podium. Um,
Hey, you give her a lot of credit. She hates public speaking, but
that's
hey,
so what?
maybe
This is how
maybe
you get
that'll be
out
the
of it.
one. Hey, real quick, side tangent. Shout out to Mama Negrong. I love you so much. I had the pleasure of taking college university classes with my mother at Fordham University.
That is so awesome.
And the opening line of one of her presentations that we were doing together was, "So sorry, you guys. I'm nervous." And right, it was the sweetest thing I have ever witnessed as a son. But yeah, I'm not sure how well she'll do in that Goodell spot, but I love the consideration. So Sean, send
That
Mama
is
Negron up there with your pick. Who's your fifth pick?
Maybe I'll shock you here. Maybe I won't. Give me Zach Reese.
No fucking way.
I'm
Holy
going
hell. He's
completely
trolling.
different this week.
This man said
Completely
Reese's
different.
Puffs, Reese's Puffs,
That's right.
peanut butter chocolate flavor. Honestly, this is a very strange dynasty performance out of you. I'm gonna be
I'm
real,
because I'm changing
but
it up. I'm changing it up.
it's fair.
It's
That is
holiday
fair.
cheer. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Here's your dynasty. I'm letting you have one.
I like it.
I expect the
Damn.
same on Christmas.
Yeah. Look out for that. Good luck, you guys. I'm gonna go in a very strange direction with these last two because it's my last two. Give me Rodolfo Bellato and give me the woman that has my heart, Veronica Hardy. Sean, why don't you finish us off? Because I think Veronica Hardy might have did that for me already.
Oh, see, this is another one where it's now we're in the
I'm sorry, Dan Hardy. I didn't mean it that way. I know that sounded bad.
we're in the dog days now. Um,
Yeah, it's slim pickings here. I'm not gonna lie.
see, this is all right. I'm gonna keep it short term. I'm gonna keep it short term. Ah, man, this is not what I want, and I don't know how I feel about it. I'm kind of just giving you the time here to just get everything ready.
I
Um,
like it. No, take your time. I'm not in a rush.
yeah, yeah. The listeners are though. I could tell. They're breathing down my neck here.
You can feel it. Yeah, you can feel the pressure.
I know they're yelling at me on who to take. Oh, this is the last pick of the draft, correctly? Correct, right?
Final pick of the draft.
You know what? I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's not something I'm confident in.
Jared Gooden, right?
Absolutely.
Come on.
It's not something I'm confident in at all. But I do think he's still got. You know what? I can't do it. I can't do it. As much as I want to believe, I can't believe. You know what? Just to end this, we already have everybody in those last four fights except for two. God. Just in case I'm wrong about Rob Font here, this could be. I'll take an L for my dynasty this week, no matter what happens here, and give me Davison.
Honestly, that is a sleeper eighth pick. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I'm honestly not really sure how much longer we see Davison Figueredo fight.
that's why. That's
I
why I
love it.
was.
It's a good pick, especially with the eighth pick, man. That's a great pick. So our final standings are as follows. Sean with the number one pick goes with Sean Brady. The man is going with
That's
the
right.
all Sean team, the all namesake team, which you love to see.
That's right.
I go second and third, Arman Tsarukyan and Jalen Turner, followed by Sean going Beneil Dariush and Zach Reese. The ultimate who moment of this
That's right.
draft. And then I follow that up with Rodolfo Bellato and Veronica Hardy. And Sean rounds us out with Davidson Figueredo. So just like that, we've got our dynasty team set. Just want to give you guys a reminder too. Sean has two fighters already on his team competing on this card. So in addition to his four that he just picked, he'll also have Rob Font going up obviously against Davidson, and then Bobby Green going up against Jalen Turner. You love to see the head-to-head matchups in Dynasty, right? Someone's getting a point in both directions here. And I'm hoping I double up on getting a win and an L in your column. But with all that being said, man, what are you circling? Did I miss something?
No, I'm just circling. This beautiful draft that
This
I think
man's
is
a
going to be a
professional.
sleeper.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like this card is going to be a sleeper. We were unanimous on a lot of these fights. I think we only went opposite directions on three of them, but I think this fight card in general is really closely matched up, and there's a case for either of these fighters, no matter what the matchup is. So, I think this is going to be for sure a banger out in Austin, which I think these small cards in random venues really do deliver. So, really looking forward to this one, Sean. But why don't you take us home by reminding the people where they can find you and all of your musings?
Ooh, yes, you can find me at Shonegro26 on Twitter and bsreports.org for my website, which is all sports related. If you ever want to get involved in the sports world, writing, whatever the case may be, shoot me a shout and I will get you started.
You'll love to see it. I am still participating in No Shave November. I am full on looking homeless at this point, but I got 3 days, baby, and then I'm a clean up nice. So you'll got something to look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. But you can find me at Negrong MMA as well as Chris Negrong underscore on Instagram if you're interested in checking all that out. But most importantly, why don't you follow the brand at OTS Media on all social media platforms, OTS Media Co. on YouTube. But with that all being laid out, Sean, we did it again. We got another banger on our hands, and I can't wait to see how this one plays out next week. But Austin, Texas, keep being weird, keep smelling strange, and don't forget Khalil Roundtree. You will be missed, but we'll see you next time on the other side of the world. And like that, we're gone. Peace.